Hey,
Hey, nice shirt.
thanks, man.
How are you,
Keep
Leon?
going. I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm okay.
You ready to get started?
Yeah, I've been
All
hunting.
right.
I've been looking for a brass spring claw. I know I have one. I just can't find it anywhere. So it's driving me crazy. Anyway, that's what I'm doing.
You'll
But yeah,
find it, man.
let's go. Let me grab a soda.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take your time, man.
All right.
All right. Ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, man.
Cool. Cool. Well, Chris, first off, thank you so much for doing this, man. It really means a lot to me. And I wanted to get started with this. I want to, share something personal. Your music and Gar Samuelson genuinely changed my life. You know, if I had to pick a favorite lineup, it would have to be the original lineup. And those first two albums are my favorite. Now, I came across Gar's isolated drum tracks from P Cells, and I was listening to it, and I completely fell in love. And it was really cool because I had only heard the songs before. I never heard isolated instruments, and I heard Gar's swing, his ghost notes, his left foot, his dynamics, the feel.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
And then I naturally went and I was like, all right, I got to do Killing's My Business. I got to hear Killing's My Business. And I went looking for it. And what was online wasn't actually Gar. It was like some backing track. So I spent months like researching frequencies and phase and all of it and trying to isolate the real drums. And I finally figured it out. And I literally said like, holy fucking shit, this is unbelievable.
Oh, I
Then
know.
yeah, another thought hit me. I was like, dude, I've got to be one of the only people in the world hearing this besides you guys in the original lineup and Carrot Faye, right? And people
Right.
involved in the masters.
Right.
And I felt like I had this responsibility to upload it for the fans and preserve another piece of Gar's legacy. You know,
Sure.
I saw all this love and comments from people around the world. It's been amazing. When you hear something like that, what goes through your mind?
Oh, I mean, Gar was that good before we even came to California. I've heard Gar playing like that his whole life almost.
Right, right. And I've listened to the New Yorkers tapes and I'm really excited that there's a vinyl coming out finally. Um, Now, did you ever imagine 40 years later, people would be studying Gar's isolated performances?
Um, I can I never thought it would happen, but I can see why it's happening.
Right.
You know,
And
go ahead.
what do you think people are finally hearing in Gar now that maybe they missed back then?
Well, it was buried in, left right guitars, bass, reverb, I mean, they might have heard it better on the Randy Burns mix because Randy didn't use a lot of reverb on the drums, so you could actually hear it. But
Exactly.
but that was a I think that was mixed to be like almost like a European style mix at the time. That was probably what was happening.
Exactly. That was actually one of the things I was going to talk about with you when talking about, Randy and his mixes. For a second, I want to talk about the New Yorkers and the fusion DNA. Now, one thing that blew my mind was hearing you say that Gar told you Megadeth was basically what you guys are already doing in the New Yorkers, only it was louder and more distorted. Now, the New Yorkers was your first real band, right?
Oh no, no. No, me and Gar, I was in a band before I met Gar. I was in a band while I was playing with Gar, and it was me, Gar, and his brother Stu. We had a core project that sometimes Stu would play guitar or bass. But when we moved to California in like 78 or 79, Stu and me played guitar, Gar played drums, and we got Robbie Pagliari on bass, and then assorted horn players. Our main guy though was oh God, I can't remember his name. I'm so embarrassed. It'll come to me.
Got it. That's cool. Now, how did you,
His name's Don Roper.
Don Roper?
Yeah, I always want to say Don Randy, but it's Don Roper.
That's cool. That's very cool. Yeah, I know, seeing Ohm now. It's really cool seeing, you and Robbie and thinking, you know, hey, those are the two original members from New Yorkers. Now, how did you and Gar first meet?
I was in a restaurant with this is crazy. My best friend in high school, his last name was Brazil, and my last name was Poland. That's not why we became friends, but we were really good friends. And we were sitting there having a burger at a restaurant, and Gar and his close friend named Billy Smith walked up to our table, and Gar goes, "Hey, you're Chris Poland, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "We got a jam." And he starts throwing joints at me. Like every 5 minutes, he'd flick a joint in front of my, plate. And I was like, "Dude, you got to stop that." Because my dad, knew everybody in town. I didn't want anybody to say anything. But anyway, I did. I went and jammed with them, and I never left after that. I was at their house probably more than I was at home.
That's cool. Very
Let's put
cool.
it this way. One night, Gar's mom comes down to the music room. They had a really cool music room. And she opens the door and she sees me there and she goes, "Oh no, you're corrupting poor Polly." That was her nickname for me, was Polly. She was funny.
Yeah. I'm sure she was very proud, right, to see what you guys did years later with, the New Yorkers and Megadeth and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure she
Yeah.
was.
Yeah. Now, what was the chemistry like between you and Gar like before Megadeth?
Um, well, we used to live together.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we were just kind of like brothers. So,
Nice. And you guys wanted to be the Mahavishnu Orchestra. And now when fans are hearing Wake Up Dead, Good Morning Black Friday, how much of that is actually fusion disguised as thrash?
um, well, you know what, man? Mustaine's writing is progressive. I don't care what anybody says. You can call it speed metal all day long, but that stuff's progressive, man. Hang on a second. And we wanted to be us. We didn't want to be the Mahavishnu Orchestra, but we wanted to do that kind of like high energy stuff. And so when Gar described the band to me, he was like, just think of it like us, but faster and loud and distorted guitars. And I know you can play it. So, he didn't have to talk me into it. If he was going to be in the band, I was going to definitely try and get in the band because I wanted to play with Gar.
Yeah, I agree with you. Mustaine's writing is very progressive. Um, Now, when I listen to the New Yorkers, right, I can already hear the DNA of early Megadeth, right? You listen to the New Yorkers tape on YouTube, you go right to Killing Is My Business, you can just tell, the movement, the signatures, the feel, the improv. Do you hear that too, listening back now?
Um, um, I actually never do that, but I'm sure I could if I listened. Um, yeah, I mean, we were fresh out of the New Yorkers, so I can see why there was a little bit of a thumbprint still.
Mhm. So, New Yorker is finally getting released on vinyl. I mean, this is huge, man. I mean, people have been listening to the tape on YouTube. It's going to be amazing. What does it feel like knowing people are finally going to hear that material properly after all these years?
Well, some of the material is from our first studio, the first time I was ever in a recording studio. And all I had was a JC 120. I didn't have anything else. And so I'm trying to play solos through a JC 120, which isn't a good idea. So I was a little bit vibed out about the guitar tone, but the songwriting's great. Like I Only Cry for You is a really good song. Genet, great song. Daytime LA is a great song.
Yeah.
If you listen to the songs are really good. And we had a really big following, man. And then something happened. The Knack came out, and just everything was new wave, and that was it, man. We couldn't even get a gig anymore. So
Looking forward to it. Now, talking about Killing's My Business, you guys obviously played Fusion together in the New Yorkers. Now, what was it like when you got into, you know, Combat Records Studio, you're recording Killing's My Business, you're suddenly hearing Gar apply that musical mind to metal.
Gar's Gar. Gar plays like Gar no matter where he's playing. And he wasn't thinking, hey, I'm going to fusion this up. That's just how Gar plays. He always goes over the one. He always, just does whatever he wants. And he 9 times out of 10, he'll make whatever his call is, he'll come through. They say, if you're on the road for 6 weeks and you're playing, a Megadeth set, I've seen Gar drop the ball once or twice, but um, he was an amazing drummer, man.
100%. Yeah, I can hear that in his playing. He's like he does whatever he wants. He's so creative. He doesn't just play the same thing again and again. It's like so organic. It's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, yeah, man. And I think that's what uh, kind of drew people to the record was it wasn't your standard metal drumming thing, it was something different. And then Dave's songwriting. I mean, the songwriting is, the key point, but um, Gar gave it a feel that metal hadn't had, that kind of music hadn't had yet. So hats off to Gar.
100%. You know, was there a moment when you thought like, holy shit, nobody's playing drums like this in metal? I mean, that's basically what you just said.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we knew that. I mean, I'm not even sure I think Dave heard what was happening and was like, "Yeah, this is cool. This is making this really fresh sounding," and or maybe not. I don't know. I think Dave was just trying to write more songs all the time. So, and as long as we were there and playing it right, Dave didn't care.
Yeah. Now you were only in the band 1 week before recording Killings of My Business. Did that feel like trial by fire, or was it just the chemistry with you and Gar just instantly clicked?
No, I think it was longer than that. I think it was just under a month, and I just if it wasn't for Cliff Colteri, I wouldn't have any solos on the record. He was with Relativity Records, and he took Dave aside and said, "Dave, you got to let Chris do more solos on this record." And I'm glad he did because there's some solos on there I'm really proud of, like the Rattlehead solo. Just a lot of good moments. So thank you, Cliff.
Yeah, I was actually gonna. I'm glad you answered that. I was gonna literally ask you. You said because of Cliff Colteri pulled you to the side and said for you to do more solos. So that's cool. One thing I've heard for years is that basically the whole Killings My Business album it was done in like one take per song. Like, is that actually true?
Almost. I mean, I know there was a couple songs that was one or two takes, but we recorded that record really fast. We didn't have any money. We had like $6,000, and I think we did really well when we went to Crystal Sound. We got a lot done there. I don't know how we got in there because that was a great studio. That's where Weather Report recorded "I Sing the Body Electric," and then later on, I think Metallica recorded the Black Album there or some of it.
It's in Hollywood studio.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm,
Used to be called Crystal Sound.
nice. Now, I was curious how the songs are arranged. Did Gar like lay the drums first and everyone built around that?
No, they always recorded live with Gar.
Mhm.
Dave Ellefson, Dave Mustaine, and Gar. Those guys would wear headphones and just play a live take with Gar, and then they do their overdubs to that.
That's cool. I think in the Randy Burns interview, Randy said that P Cells was like that. Like Gar laid out the drums and then you guys built everything around him on P Cells.
Same way. David and Dave got in there. They played the rhythm parts for Gar to play to, and then everybody put their parts, over the overdubbing our parts in.
Hmm, that's cool. But when I listen to Killing's My Business, it feels like very explosive and raw and dangerous and chaotic, but somehow still incredibly tight. What was that atmosphere in the studio? What did it actually feel like?
It was it happened so fast, dude. I couldn't even tell you. It was over before it seemed like it was over before it started. The only thing I really remember is getting to Crystal Sound because we were stuck up in the Malibu mountains at the Moody Blues studio. There were little bungalows that we slept in. I don't think we were there for more than 4 days, maybe 5 days, not very long. Then somehow we got in Crystal Sound, and I remember that because I was like adding harmonies to ends of solos, and just we were doing little things here and there. But it was a whirlwind, man. It was like, how do you remember something that happened where you're playing like 16 hours a day? You don't remember much.
Yeah, for sure. Nowadays, we're in 2026. People can punch in endlessly quantize and replace drums and edit everything. But you guys are just in there raw playing these insanely difficult songs together.
Yeah, no click track for that record or Peace Cells. There wasn't a click track anywhere.
Right. And that's what I feel like made it sound so organic. Now, if we compare it to Rust in Peace, which is a great album, I remember when you went to go do the solos, you were saying that they started using a click track. Is that right?
Oh, I can't remember.
Hmm.
But I do know that that's why songs like The Conjuring,
Mhm.
the song would breathe because Gar would take it at the out and just take it up. He knew how to bring it up a couple notches without obviously, increasing the beats per minute. You know what I mean? So that the energy would come without, you know, obviously, speeding up like that. Gar was really good, man.
Very good. His hi-hat work on Conjuring is fantastic.
Yeah, man.
Now, let's talk about Mustaine, the riffs, progressive, as the way he writes and all this stuff. Dave was saying himself he wanted to write riffs that other people couldn't play. Now, he did a really good job at that. I've sat there learning these riffs, trying to play them perfectly at full speed. They're fucking hard, man. And then Dave is just singing over them like it's nothing. And I remember watching a clip of you at NAMM in 2018 with your Schecter playing Good Morning Black Friday, and you're like, shit, that's hard. You know,
Yeah, yeah, no, that I mean back then we were a lot younger and that came very easy, But how he sang and played that, I still don't know.
same, same. And when you and Gar first heard Dave's riffs and saw him, were you guys like, do you kind of look at each other like, dude, what the fuck is this?
No, no, not really. We were like, we knew the difficulty factor was going to be super high, or at least I knew that. And yeah, I mean, Gar said it was. So, I was prepared to. It was a lot of learning, man. When I first joined the band, I was at Mars Studios every day for hours. And Dave would stop me and go, "No, do a pull off there. Don't pick that note." And and so I would do a pull off. And eventually I would learn why, because when you do overdubs, everybody has to do the pull off. You can't pick the note. It just sounds ridiculous. So I learned a lot in that being in that band.
Yeah, I bet. A lot of fans talk about early Megadeth sounds like a collision between Dave's aggression and then you and Gar's jazz fusion mindset. Did it feel like that inside the band too?
It just was like that. I mean, Dave Ellefson and Dave Mustaine were steeped in metal. Like you could name a song and they could tell you who played drums on it or guitar or where they recorded it. That's how into metal they were. But me and Gar were not into metal. Me and Gar were into like Weather Report and Billy Cobham and Tony Williams and Return to Forever. And, metal for us was Led Zeppelin. So that's what happened was there was this meeting of the minds, this weird melting pot where we all got together, and you can't take your influences and throw them away. So Gar's brought all that with him, and that was the first two Megadeth records.
Yeah, and
Actually,
Dave.
actually, if you listen to "The System Has Failed,"
Mhm,
because Vinny Colaiuta comes from the same place,
mhm.
there's a little bit of that Gar feel on that record.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's a great album. It was really cool to see you come back for that. Now talking about P-Cells, Capitol Records, right? That was a shift. I live out in LA. I drive by the Capitol Records building all the time on the freeway, and every time I see it, I think about P-Cells, and especially if I'm listening to it in the car, it's a vibe.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
something about that atmosphere and era that feels so iconic. What was it like going from Combat to Capitol?
Oh my God. That happened like overnight, man. All of a sudden, we're on a major label. I don't even know how much they paid for the record. I never found out. But all of a sudden, we're in the big leagues, man. And it was just like, hold on to your hat, man. We were on the road all the time.
Yeah,
Except for the long, long drives, that US drag where you're driving from the West Coast to the East Coast, man, that's a hard drive. And we're in Winnebagos, you're going 55 miles an hour. It's like, oh man. But I wanted to I was gonna bring something up, but I started thinking about long drives. It'll come to me.
yeah. Speaking of long drives, I forgot where I heard this, but I heard like you guys were driving and Gar was driving Dave's car and he went to like adjust the kick pedal and then something happened, like
Oh, that was on the
drove off
first
into
tour.
a ditch.
Yeah, that was the first tour. I wasn't on that tour. Luckily, that was Mike Albert on guitar on that tour. But well, we've had our moments. I mean, like we had a sound man from Montreal, Canada, and he was awesome. He could speak fluent French. Anyway, he's driving a Winnebago. He doesn't realize there's no oil in the engine, and the
Yeah,
whole Winnebago. We wake up and there's all there is smoke. You can't even see the front. It's so smoky. So we had to pull over. We had to wait for them to bring us one, and we were in the middle of nowhere, man. It took I think 12, 15 hours for them to get to us, and
shit.
that was crazy. But I know what I wanted to say. Since you're in LA, I want to plug my studios. I
Yeah,
manage Seventh Street Studios. We're at the east end of the Seventh Street Bridge downtown. We have all kinds of monthly lockouts. We had like 10, maybe 12 control room, tracking room situations, but they're all rented. But if anybody in town that hears this show, if you're looking for an hourly, I mean, I'm sorry, a monthly lockout, um, just go online and look for 7th Street Rehearsal.
yeah,
That's a shameless plug, but since you're in LA, I had to do it.
dude. Feel free to plug whatever it is. You know what I mean? At a certain point, I want to talk about your current projects you got going on as well. So, um,
Well,
yeah,
speaking of Randy Burns, he's producing the latest Ohm record.
yep,
Yeah.
yep, yeah. I have a plan to at a certain point talk about that and the Return to Metalopolis remaster and all that stuff. You
Yeah.
know, speaking of Randy Burns, right? And when it comes to the topic of P cells, when I listen to those Randy Burns mixes, I know exactly what you mean. It's like it's not as cut. You can hear more of Gar's drums,
Hmm.
and I think it's really, really cool listening to that mix. Especially like in P cells when it's like it like it doesn't cut. It just like the note just rings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's you can hear the differences.
yeah. But you know what? I mean, you got to hand it to Paul Lanny. He knew what was happening, and he must have gotten together with Capitol, and they said, "This is what we want." And because I looked at Gar when I first heard it. I was waiting for him to like start throwing things, but he was like, "No, it's pretty cool." So, but yeah, it was nothing like the Bullets mix. Did you? Is that the record? Did you hear it on Bullets?
The 2011 mix.
Well, no, I'm talking about when there was a combat release of Peace Cells with Randy Burns mix, and I think that release was called Bullets. Not any Megadeth Bullets thing. This was long before that, and that's the only place I ever heard Randy's mix. I wish I could have heard the whole record somewhere. Maybe he's got it. I'll bet he does somewhere.
Yeah, it's also on Apple Music. I'm more like
The Randy Burns mix, the whole record.
it has the 1986 mix does have the Randy Burns couple tracks, not the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
It's Wake Up Dead, Conjuring, Peace Cells, and Good Morning.
Oh my God, what's Conjuring sound like?
They all sound amazing. I mean, it's so like different and cool. You know, it's
Wow.
all raw.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah. One thing I heard Randy say, you guys recorded Peace Cells in like a month. I mean, Gar did the drums in like a week. Is that right?
No, man. Well, I know. Here's what happened. Dave wrote that song in 5 minutes, and that was the easiest song to record. There wasn't a week.
Oh,
And
the whole album. I meant the whole album, not the song.
oh no, I think we were in the studio for probably in different studios, probably 2.5 weeks,
Hmm.
because I think we had $24,000, something like that, maybe $20,000, and we used every bit of it. Sometimes we were doing 18-hour days.
Wow.
It was just sleep, wake up, record, and Randy was really good, man. He knew how to get a performance out of everybody. He knew what he wanted, and he did a great job. Actually, he was on the phone with me 2 minutes before I called you, and he goes, "I finally figured out the bass and drums." And I said, "I got to call you back." We
That's awesome.
recorded the Ohm Records was recorded live,
Hmm.
so he's trying to get the kick, snare, and toms to not, the bass and that to gel together. And that it already sounds great, but he's a very picky guy. So
That's awesome, man. Well, what's it like getting in the studio with Randy again to do Return to Metalopolis remix in the new Ohm record after 40 years?
yeah, man, he calls me up out of the blue and he goes, "Chris, do you still have the 2-inch tapes from Return to Metalopolis?" I said, "Yeah, I stored them this whole time." He goes, "Here's a bunch of money. Drive them to this address, give them to this guy, and he'll send the stems to me, and we're going to remix that whole record." And I said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you're not going to believe how it sounds. I mean, it's a whole different ball game now, man. And we're not going to follow the old record like effects wise or anything. We're going to do like newer things, harmonizers here or there, maybe delay here or there. Really hyping and the drums were recorded so good that he can do anything with the drums he wants. So it's just a big record now. It's like it sounds massive, man. Huge. Not all buried in reverb.
That's cool, man. Looking
Yes.
forward to
Yeah.
hearing it.
It'll
Can
be
you
fun.
tell us around the time frame it's going to come out?
Randy's not even going to look at it again until he's done with this Ohm record.
Okay.
Mhm.
Did you say on a recent interview that it's basically done, the Ohm record?
Oh yeah, we're done recording. It's just in mix right now.
Nice. That's awesome. You know, I also thought of something I wanted to say. When I listen to Killing Is My Business and Peace Cells, it sounds like um the drums, the Gar is steering the entire record emotionally and dynamically. Did it
He
feel like,
always he always did, no matter who he played drums
yeah,
with. That was Gar's thing. Gar, you know what Gar used to do that I used to love was when I did a guitar solo, he would do it with me. And like if I started like getting more intense and burning or whatever, he would come along with me. And that's I loved when he did that, man. And he would do that live with Megadeth, unless he was pissed at me about something, and then he wouldn't do it. And I would like be playing. I'd look over at him. And he would be like, "Eh." That's how he would get back to me.
yeah, I noticed that you talked about this too. In those Megadeth shows, you wouldn't always play the same solo. You would improv it, and Dave would get mad at you for that.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember one night. I don't know where it was. It might have been in San Diego. I was playing the solos from the record, and it's like eventually, I guess you come back to that solo, and he was really happy that night. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He would get upset, but
I
anyway,
think
live nobody could hear me anyway, so it really didn't matter.
now you said Gar was like the only guy who could get Dave to change songs. What was it about him that gave him that level of trust where Dave was just like, okay.
Oh, it was just one song. Um, we were working on Peace Cells,
Mhm.
and Gar just stopped in the middle of it because I think it was like over 7 minutes long. And Gar stopped and said, "Dave, can we edit this down?" And Gar explained why. I can't remember exactly what he said, but Dave said, "Yeah, you're right. Let's do that." And that was the only time that somebody actually could, back then. I mean, eventually those guys, were people. Everybody had a say, but when the stuff's already been written, it's hard to like go in and tell the writer, here's what you want to do. But he took Gar's advice, and Peace Cells, you know, became a hit.
Exactly. Exactly. Who knows if it would have hit as hard if it was 8 minutes, seven
Oh,
minutes.
I'm sure the record company would have did the edit anyway. So
Mhm.
they usually do that.
Now, Chris, I wanted to talk about Bad Omen. I think it's one of the most underrated songs. Doesn't get talked about much. It's actually one of my favorites on the album. There's just something so dark and atmospheric and unique.
Yeah.
What do you remember about writing and recording Bad Omen?
The thing I like about Bad Omen is I added a bunch of stuff, and when Dave doesn't say anything, then it gets, you can keep it. And so there's a bunch of those, you know, kind of, I don't know what they're called. I don't know how you describe it, but I added a bunch of those notes that made it even darker. And Dave just was like, never even said a word. So I kept playing it, and they're on the record.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, that's a really dark song. It's a really super interesting song. Like the whole arrangement and just the idea of it. All the
Yeah,
songs. I mean, come on, Peace Sells. There's not a bad song on the record, man. It's like, and each one is its own entity.
yeah, exactly. I mean, My Last Words is another one. I mean, it's just such an amazing song. I think My Last Words sounds the most different from everything else. It's kind of it has this more happy, even though the lyrics itself is pretty dark, but it has this more happy, let's all get together kind of vibe. That's just always kind of how I thought about it when I heard it.
Yeah. I mean, he's just a great songwriter, man. I mean, just the next
Mhm.
album, my favorite song on the next album was Hook and Mouth. When I
Yeah.
when I heard Hook and Mouth, I was like, I couldn't believe that wasn't a huge hit on radio. That song was really powerful, man.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And talking about that lineup, we have Chuck Baylor and Jeff Young. And I remember back in 2023, you guys were in Hollywood doing a signing, and Chuck was there. And I went and I'd spoken with you, then I spoken with Chuck, and Chuck is such a cool, chill guy. And we talked about Um, we had a moment where we talked about Gar and our appreciation for him, and he was talking about how Gar was a mentor for
Oh
him,
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
seeing him play was amazing.
Yeah, no, Chuck was a really good guy.
Mhm.
Still is.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Now the the organic feel of early Megadeth, that's really I feel like it's the most I don't want to say anything bad about I love all of Megadeth. I love all the albums, all the songs, all the lineups, but I really feel like those first two albums just felt so organic. And I remember Randy talking about how blown away he was, especially by Gar, because you guys weren't using click tracks, and yet somehow the song stayed completely locked in while still breathing naturally. You had changing time signatures, you're shifting feel, you're moving tempos naturally, you're stretching these sections, you're following dynamics in real time, just staying in the pocket the
Hmm.
whole time. When you listen back now, do you think part of the magic of those records came from the fact that they weren't just perfectly locked to a grid?
Oh, absolutely, man. And another thing was that we toured playing those songs at least three times that I remember. It was probably four. And we didn't go out for a week, man. We were gone for sometimes 6 weeks at a time. And we played those songs every night. And we went right into the studio when we got home. And that made a huge difference because that momentum is on the record. So for Gar, it was like he cut his drums fast because he knew exactly what he wanted to do, and it was easy for Dave to go track it with him because we had just played it for 2 years straight, live in front of an audience. So and then Ellison says this a lot. He knew when we were playing Peace Cells live. He knew while we were, before we went and recorded the record, he knew that was going to be a hit, and eventually we all did.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, is there anything you think people still don't fully understand about Gar as a musician after all these years?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, you mean that he was a jazz guy before he was a metal guy?
Yeah, like when he was doing his compositions, he was doing it from a jazz stand, like jazz arranger instead of just a metal
You
drummer.
know what? I wouldn't even say that. It's just his way. It's like
Yeah.
that's how he played. And when you know, he had wanted to play like all these, famous fusion drummers, I guess. And once you get that in your blood, man, you use it no matter what you're playing, And Gar just brought that to the table. That was part of his. It's always been part of his playing.
Super unique. I mean, my favorite drummer, he made me get back into drums actually a couple years ago. And when I hear him, I'm like, dude, I've never heard anything like this. It's like, how is so it's similar to you, how you have a very signature sound. Whenever you hear, if you go listen to Federal Opera, right, you could take a really big Megadeth fan that likes those first two albums, and then you could play him Fatal Opera, and he could not know what Fatal Opera is, and he could be like, that sounds familiar. Those drums sound familiar.
Oh yeah,
Same with you. If you show someone Damn the Machine, they've only heard you on Megadeth. They're like, that sounds so familiar. So that's really cool.
yeah.
Uh, now, one thing that always fascinated me as a player is the tuning on the first two records because it's not exactly standard, but it's not
No,
full half step down either.
no,
Was
it's
that
not. It's
intentional?
it's right in between. We had a Peterson tuner. That's where Dave wanted it.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's very hard to like if I was a kid trying to learn it, tuning to it would be like, what is going on here? Yeah. I actually had to relearn that stuff because I was, playing with David in the Kings of Thrash. And oh my God, having to relearn that stuff. It was hard, especially trying to do the Good Morning solo. That was a moment in time, man. I can't even reproduce it with my main rig. I just can't do it. It's like I think it had something to do with the BC Rich guitar had the that Neil Mosier preamp in it, and that was pummeling the front end of a Rockman X100, and then that was coming out of the Rockman into the front of a twin reverb with a little bit of reverb on it. And I was sitting right next to it at a high volume with headphones on, and so feedback was just it just happened no matter where I put my finger. And I try and do that with my rig, and it's like not possible. Maybe I should buy a BC Rich guitar that has that preamp in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's cool. I mean, it adds to the atmosphere of the records. You know, there was this the gear you had, the tuning. There's a slightly like uneasy, aggressive feel to the guitars.
yeah. And you know what? It doesn't hurt to have Dave Ellison and Gar as the rhythm section because
Hmm.
Dave Ellison's right hand is a machine, man.
Hmm.
He's um he's a really, really, really strong bass player. Even
Yeah,
now. I
yeah,
mean,
fantastic bass player. I was going to ask you about your muscle memory after all these years. So, you know, you said it. Yeah, I had to relearn it.
oh yeah, it came back, especially like when I was relearning Wake Up Dead. I had learned it before, but I remember when it came back, it was muscle memory. But all of a sudden, my hand just did it. I was like, "Whoa, that is it," you know. And everything else kind of came into play like that. After a while, you're like, "Oh, that's right. It's like that," and your hand just plays it. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. Quick random question. Did Gar ever play any other instrument?
Yeah, he played guitar. He
Really?
wrote when you get the New Yorkers record. He wrote the song called "Low Temperature Delay." Another great. That's a great song.
That's awesome. Yeah, all I've heard was from that YouTube tape, or whatever you guys played in that concert. I think that's all anyone's ever heard that didn't come to the original shows.
Right.
Yeah. Now, talking about your guitar style, Chris, it's extremely unique. So many guitar players, they say they can learn the notes to your solos, but they still can't fully replicate that feel, the phrasing, the articulation. When you're improvising, what are you thinking about mentally?
Um, I don't know. I'm trying to find a theme. I usually do a whole note when I start something, unless something's really burning and I got to go right away. But um, I just try and make a theme and come back to that theme and use that as a kind of a hook during the solo. And and usually the drums and bass and parts dictate what I'm gonna do, you know. But I never have a plan, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Like I don't write solos. I might like take a couple passes if I'm recording for somebody and say, okay, now I have the skeleton of what I think I want to do, and then I just fake it.
You know, one thing I've always noticed is your phrasing and Gar's drumming almost feels just connected rhythmically. Like you guys were speaking the same language underneath everything. Did you
Yeah,
feel that
no,
chemistry?
and it's always been like that. I loved playing with Gar, man. Gar made you sound better than you really are.
You know, talking about Gar as a human, right? For fans who only know Gar as a drummer, who was he as a person? What made him laugh? What pissed him off? He loved like painting and farm life and stuff, right?
Oh yeah, he was a great painter. At his studio in Florida, the first time I was there, I walked in his studio, and a whole wall was the cover from the Court of the Crimson King Crimson record. The whole wall was that screaming face. I was like, holy shit! I said, Gar, did you paint that? He goes, yeah. But he sculpted wood too. I mean, he 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 found this chunk of wood and he carved it and did all kinds of stuff and made a pot pipe out of it. Um, he was an artist, man. And and when he wrote like temperature delay, it was so unique because that's how he is. That's the way he thinks, you know. So when you hear low temperature delay, that'll give you an idea of how Gar thinks about writing music. But he was just a nice person, man. He was a great guy. He was super had a dry humor that you know he was the kind of guy like we would be driving across the country in Megadeth, and he'd be reading Rip magazine, and there'd be a Metallica centerfold, and he'd have Gar always had a cigarette in his mouth, hanging out of his mouth, and so he turns it around and he shows it to Mustaine. He goes, "Dave, look, if you weren't such an asshole, you'd be in that band." And if anybody else said that to Dave, there would be like, you know, we'd be fighting. But Gar says it, and Dave would just go, "Oh, fuck off, Gar."
Yeah, he just seemed like he did seem like a really funny, charismatic guy. So I can definitely see that.
Oh yeah.
Uh, now you said another another thing. Now that you said that, I feel like the whole Metallica Megadeth thing was like super inflated. I don't think it was as like exaggerated as people did.
I never heard Dave talk about it once. All I ever heard him say was once he said Lars is a moron. That's the worst thing I ever heard him say about Metallica. And that was once that I remember. You know, he never
Yeah,
talked about that band. Maybe him and Ellison did. I don't know, but he never talked about it with me.
yeah, it definitely is super exaggerated, and it kind of maybe starts as a high school rumor type of thing, and people, you know,
Yeah.
circle it around, and it's not like that. But you said in the Return to Metalopolis magazine interview, you were talking about how everything you learned about rhythm and timing and feel it came from Gar. What did he teach you about life?
Oh God. Well, I was basically a total square before I met Gar. I was like, I went to a private school. Um, I grew up an altar boy. So when I met Gar, I was like, oh my God. I mean, he had super long hair. I had a preppy haircut. And so Gar basically taught me to be cool. I never really quite got it, but, but, I used to, just try and keep up with those guys. But he was just an awesome guy. It's like he was like I said, I basically lived at their house after I met him.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't know if anyone ever knew that. Do you have a favorite Megadeth concert? My favorite Megadeth concert on YouTube is the one in Detroit in 1986. It's the Token Lounge. And I had watched that concert a bunch of times, and then someone remastered it to like HD and 60 frames a second, and I love that concert.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I know the best show we ever did was opening for Motorhead. I think I don't know if it was San Diego. It was the last one we did before they threw us off the tour. And we were so good that night, and we had a board tape, and I don't know what happened to it, but that board tape sounded just like a record. And we were just spot on. It was we were so on that we all knew it too, and it was just like, and that room sounded great too. But there was a show at in Reseda. What was that club called?
Yeah, I think they got uploaded recently.
That's a great show. Um, that's a really good show. I saw some of that, but then when we get to the end, they shut the lights off.
Reseda Country Club?
Yeah, the country club. They shut the lights off on us, and we
Yeah.
were trying to play Good Morning Black Friday, and nobody could see their guitars. It was pitch black. and that was like the worst moment that I heard. Then I stopped watching it, but it seemed like a pretty good show.
Yeah, I mean, it got uploaded like a year ago. I mean, it was like this new piece of, like never seen before. So that was really cool. Now talking about Fatal Opera 3, The Raven, making music with Garrigan. Um, how did that song come together?
Those guys, anything I played on, they just sent me, and I remotely recorded it here. I wasn't there, but those guys had their own little studio, man. They had I think they had Alesis 8-track recorders, digital, and can't remember what console he had. It was probably a Mackie. I don't care what anybody says; those boards sound great. But some of their songs, man, like the first one that starts out where they're talking about how they can't get a clean glass of water anywhere on the East Coast. What record was that? Do you
I don't
remember?
remember.
Is there
No.
what's the song? What I think it was like, "What if I was a fly?" Or they're just so bizarre, man. It's like very Zappa like that band. Gar's band reminded me like more of Zappa than it did metal.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff. Now when you what was it like kind of emotionally like hearing his drums again? Did it instantly bring you back to the old days? Did it feel natural?
Oh, you mean playing with the Fatal Opera, recording
Hmm.
over it? Oh yeah, it's Gar's drumming, you know. And then Stu, I played with Stu in New Yorkers for years, man. So it was easy to play anything, with those guys. I wish
Right.
Stu was still playing. I don't think he plays anymore.
Yeah. Did he obviously knows about the vinyl coming out, right? He's looking forward to it, the New Yorkers.
You know what? I think Stu is. I mean, I don't think he cares one way or another. That was a big hit for all of us when it just was done.
Mm,
And I'm pretty sure he probably feels like, I wish we had better recordings. But we'll see what happens. Let's see what happens, Maybe everybody will be like, you know, everyone will love it. Who knows? We'll see.
yeah.
At least it's documented.
Now, about the Rust in Peace demos, as a fan, hearing your solos on the Rust in Peace demos, it feels like hearing an alternate universe. Did you ever think about what a full Chris Poland, Gar Samuelson version of Rust in Peace would have sounded like?
No, no, no. That's Nick, man.
No.
That's Nick is what I think Nick made Megadeth. That's the pinnacle of that band. And if it wasn't for Nick, I don't think it would have happened. It was his drumming, especially live. I mean, he was lucky to get Nick, that's for sure. Dave was smart like that, though. He made sure that he always had a great second guitar player and a good drummer.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. Polaris is one of my favorite tracks from Nick.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Now, I remember you talked about, you were driving, and you had your manager with you, and your manager was like, "Hey, Chris, you shouldn't do this." Walking away from that and choosing sobriety and health over money and fame, was that one of the hardest decisions of your
Not,
life?
not at all. I
Mm.
made that decision getting out of the car to
Mhm.
go to the meeting. Oh no, actually, you know what? It was on my mind, but as soon as they said we have Marty Friedman, you know, ready if you don't want to do it. And when they said Marty Friedman, I'm like, dude, Marty could do this it would be great, you know? And that's when I said, you know what? I can't do it, man. And I already had a record deal, you know? So, you know, I wanted to do my own thing. And my manager, you know, she was not kidding. She said, you join the band, you'll be dead in a year. And it's like Ellison says, you hang around a barber shop long enough, you're going to get a haircut.
Mhm.
So, you know, I could be there. No, that's okay. I don't want any. You know, 2 weeks later, no, no, no. Next weekend, just give me a little bit, and then it's over.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you went into the Circle Jerks, did that for a little bit, and then you did Return to Metalopolis, right?
Yes.
Now, getting into what you have going on now, the modern days, Kings of Thrash and Ohm. I wanted to say I've seen Ohm 4 times at the Big Potato, Kings of Thrash about 5 times. Every single show has been incredible. I was scrolling Facebook and I saw Kings of Thrash playing Killing is My Business, Peace Sells in its entirety with Chris Paul, and I was like, no fucking way. And immediately I got tickets and I went and it was absolutely amazing. And then seeing Ohm, right? Seeing Rob Pagliari, seeing Carlos Cruz as well. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I think you're really gonna like this record.
Yeah.
Um, it's it it has a lot to do with the studio. I
Mhm.
mean, I mean, you know that we can play, you know, and we've been playing together for a while, so that's a given. But man, that board, it was made in 1970. It's a Neve console it was made for EMI London in 1970. So you know Rupert Neve made that thing with his bare hands. And it's pre 1272 and 1073 preamps. It's before those preamps. And Carlos told us, you know, he wanted to do it there and he said, "We're going to go look at it." And so when I walked in and I saw it, I was like, okay. But I didn't know until I heard stuff come back while we were playing and, you know, recorded something and heard it back. If I make any more records in my lifetime, that's where I'm going to record them, man. That's the best console I've ever played through. It just has some kind of magic in it. You'll hear it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. You mentioned this is like the best record you've ever done, this new Ohm record.
Yeah, I think it is, and I think it's because it's live and with minimal overdubs, and it just seemed to come together, man. It just was meant to be. We were only there for 4 days, and the first day was a wash because there was a faulty ground in my uh, the room I was recording in, the hallway actually. So we never used any of that. But we did do this jam though on the second to last day. It's like 11 a.m. And I said, Randy, can we just jam? I just want to make sure all my sounds are right. I'm, you know, the right volumes and blah, 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 blah. And so they go, yeah, let's do it. So unbeknownst to me, second engineer turns on he's recording it on his phone. And then the first engineer presses record and we start playing. It's the most magic jam that we've ever done, man. And when it was done, I said, did you record that? And they said, yeah. And I said, that's going on the fucking record. And it is. It's really fun, man. It's just a great jam. We jam a lot. But to have it with that console and capture it with that sound, it's really cool. Really excited about that.
Yeah, and I bet it has a supernatural feel to it because it's just, jam, improv, it just came out.
Yeah,
That's
and no, the whole record's like that. The whole record has it's like you said, organic sounding.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
Carlos and Pag together, very dangerous, you know, rhythm section. Really dangerous, man.
Yeah,
They're so good that, you know, you think you've already heard it all, and then you know, 2 songs later, you're like, what? Especially Carlos, man. What an animal.
absolutely. I mean, seeing that live is It's amazing. And Rob's on a fretless bass. I mean, talk about mastering an instrument.
Yeah, it's like a giant violin.
Yeah. Now, tell us about Nuclear Messiah, Black Flame. I mean, working with Glenn Drover, Sean Drover, Chris Adler, Marty Friedman, fantastic record. What has that been like?
Brian Pereira, I had worked
Yeah.
for, done work for Cleopatra, and he he said, he gave me a call and he said, "Hey, I have this idea for a project." And when he told me, I agreed to do it. But in my back of my mind, I was like, he's never going to get all these people together. And then every 3 days, he'd go, "Hey, Rick Wakeman's going to be on the record." I'm like, "What?" Next thing I know, yeah, Pat Travers is in. And it just went on from there, and it just kept going and going and going. And then I'd get the track because I did everything remotely here and in a friend's studio on the second floor. Um, I was just like, wow, this is really good, man. Because everybody that was involved is just, you know, they've been at it so long and they're so good at their instruments that that's what happened. We got the Black Flame record, and Derek Hughes and Jurgen Engler mixed it so that it's cohesive and it doesn't, you're not sitting there scratching your head every three songs like, why does this sound like a different record? Somehow they brought it so it sounds like one, complete record. Because it's hard to mix a band, just one band. It's hard to mix one band, but when every song it was a different band basically. So hats off to them, and not only that, but um, John Lappin and Brian Pereira chose who would play on what song, and that in itself was kind of genius, because it's like that added to the way the songs came out as well. So it's a summit, man. It's a summit of all these guys that are just iconic metal rock guys, and it just came out so good, man. Very proud of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you should be. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, can you tell us about the signature guitars? When those are coming out, if people can pre-order those?
Hang on a second. Yeah, man, I like this guitar a lot. Let's see if you can see it.
Wow, that's sick.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, man. And then that's the headstock. But
Nice.
what's cool about it is it's got a real ebony fretboard and it's got real mother of pearl inlays. Um, it just fits perfectly in my body. It's like, and I looked at it for 3 years on Reverb, and I kept saying, God, I need to play that guitar. And so I asked Pam Parks, Dave Ellison's manager. I said, can you get a hold of Agile and see if they'll work with me on a guitar? Next thing you know, this is the guitar. The only thing I had to do was put a USA Floyd on it,
Hmm.
and once that happened, it just does not ever go out of tune. It's got a really, I don't even know how to describe it, man. It doesn't sound like a Paul. You'll hear it on the record, on the
So,
Omen record. I mean,
fuck yeah. And it's with Epiphone?
no, it's an Agile.
Oh, Agile.
Yeah, it's a super inexpensive guitar. But anything that's made at the World Plant in South Korea, nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, the guitar is made on a CNC machine. So, you know, all the points where it's connected, all of it's perfect. It's like, it's just a great guitar.
Yeah. Can people go put in pre-orders or not yet?
They're on Reverb right now. Same
Oh,
guitar. I mean, it doesn't have the bridge, but you can buy a bridge and just put it right on it. I was actually looking for the brass
oh
spring
yeah.
club right before I called you, and I gotta find it because I need to put it on that guitar. I tweak guitars like that a lot, you know. I change things here and there.
That's awesome, man. Now, you have a book coming out with Matt Herring.
Mm,
Uh, Tell
yeah,
us about that.
I was at a Comic-Con show, and Matt's booth was right across from the where the Kings of Thrash were,
Mhm.
and we were there like signing autographs, and we had a little show we did. But I started talking to Matt, and I was there for 3 days. And on the third day, I thought, you know what? I became fast friends with him, and I asked him. I said, you know what? Why don't we write a book together? And he was like, get out of here. I said, no, let's do it. And so it's been over a year, and we're almost done. It'll probably be out in the fall. And it's a bunch of funny stories, some rebuttal on things that have been said about me. But it's basically, how I started, where I'm from, the whole story. But it was great working with Matt because, he knows what he's doing. So I've never written a book before, so it's all Greek to me.
That's cool. Yeah, you read my mind. I was going to ask about, I know you said in a recent or past interview, like the way Dave said the whole thing about the gear and the pawning, and you said your side of the story and the truth, and you know, that's your opportunity, to put it in the book. So
I
that's cool.
mean, it's definitely not sour grapes, but I think Dave was really upset, with me when we weren't playing together anymore. I think he really like hurt him more than he knew.
Yeah. Well, awesome, man. I know you're a busy guy. You got studios to run and a lot of stuff going on. Thanks for your time, Chris. That
Leon,
was that was awesome.
Leon, thanks again. And remember, 7th Street rehearsal, east end of the 7th Street Bridge, downtown Los Angeles.
Definitely. I'll see you at the next Ohm show at the Baked Potato, next Kings of Thrash.
Yeah.
Looking forward to all this new stuff coming out.
All right. You know what? We'll get you a copy of the new Ohm record as soon as we have them.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right, Leon.
Alrighty. Have a
All
good
right.
Memorial Day weekend.
You
Peace
too.
out.
Thanks again.
Bye.